Hey everybody, it's Josh Olive with Haven Comics. We're here with another episode of Shop Talk where Alan and I get together and talk comics, movies, games, TV shows, pretty much anything nerd related, and sometimes baseball or football because why not? We like those too. So stick around and see what all we got on tap for tonight. Like I said, Josh Olive, Haven Comics. Really glad to be on tonight because it's Thursday, and this is what we do on Thursdays, and it would feel weird if we weren't doing this. Speaking of things that are weird, here is Alan.
So last week I started with never buy a Ouija board from a yard sale.
And that was sound advice. That was good advice.
I thought about it, and this week never hug a porcupine on a bad hair day.
Also a good point. Also a good point.
I think that might be my new thing. Unwritten rules that everybody should just know.
Yep.
But we still have to remind people. So what have you got going on this week?
Man, it is a crazy, crazy week. It is insane. Hoping things calm down a little bit. But watched a little bit of interesting shows this week. Finally got to see Top Gun Maverick. Have you seen it yet?
Have not seen it yet. We don't really and truly go to a whole lot of movies, and
I don't either, but it's available on Amazon now.
Well, we'll go to like a Disney movie, and if it's like something really big that we want to see, and now I mean if it's Disney or Marvel, the bug is dragging us off in a heartbeat. I mean we're headed to see Disney and Marvel every single time they come out with a movie, even the bad ones like Multiverse of Madness.
Well, let's see who all we got here with us real quick. We got Tots, because Tots is cool. What's happening, Tots? Hope everything is going well for you. I saw you guys finally got some cabinets. And your flooring is in your house is starting to come back to being livable. So congratulations. I know what it's like to not have a kitchen for an extended period of time. Do not recommend it. We have Christine. Christine is here. We have missed Christine. It has been a long time. I don't think she has been on since we transitioned from the quiz show to this format. I don't think we've seen Christine in forever. We've missed you, Christine. Where have you been? Nick, he's here for the cool intros and the dad jokes.
Nick, the Spencer, I watched your latest video and I agree with you 99.9%, except the Spencer run did give us a really cool Sin Eater art for just a couple of issues. But other than that, yeah, it blew chunks.
That was the only good piece of Spencer's run was that Sin Eater story.
Sin Eater is one of, I feel like, their most underrated characters. They could do so much with him, and they could really start pushing more adult content, go a little darker with Sin Eater, and it would work just fine.
Sin Eater, when Sin Eater first showed up, was powerful. That was a powerful bad guy. That was something else. Christine is here to listen as she sews when she's not busy hanging out over on the Babylon with two brothers. It's okay to do both, Christine. For example, Alan and I are frequently on the Babylon also.
Oh, speaking of which, Babylon, last week on Babylon, I did pose what I think would be a really good idea, but Nick and Dustin both just completely ignored me. I think Nick still hung up on that he doesn't want to do a dunking booth, you big baby. But I think that not only could we do a dunking booth, we could do a Shop Talk Babylon crossover event that nobody wants to see, which would be epic. Because people, when they don't want to see it, they tune in for the train wreck. I mean, it would be awesome.
That's true. Is this the one you were talking about where Dustin and I have to get up in the sumo wrestler outfits and sumo wrestle each other?
Honestly, since Nick does not want to do the Duncan booth, I say that you and Nick do the sumo outfits and Dustin and I do the Duncan booth so we can just talk trash to everybody and each other for like a couple hours straight.
I'm not gonna lie, I do look good in one of those white sumo diaper things.
I'm going to take your word for it.
You don't want to see it?
No, listen, look. I mean, where's your sense of adventure, Nick? I mean, we could also do the one chip challenge. We could raise a ton of money for charity. We could one chip challenge, Duncan Booth, sumo wrestling, comic books, complain about the current Spider-Man run.
You know, one of those things I've always wanted to do, but I can't get anybody willing to get. You know those things they put out on a lake? It's the giant bag of air, and you go down the slide, and the big person hits it, and the little person just launches off into space.
Yeah.
I have always wanted to launch somebody off into space like that because I'm pretty sure they can get some serious altitude.
It's the coming down part that would make me nervous. You will donate your time. That's all. With time and ability to wrestle Josh in a blow-up sumo outfit.
Who said blow up? I'm in a real sumo outfit.
I'll pay double.
I pay you double.
I pay you double. It'll be like, remember the movie Bubble Boy? $500. $500.
Yes. Oh, that's fantastic.
That is the dumbest movie that I will watch every single time it comes on, just so I can hear that guy scream, $500.
Oh, my goodness. That's hilarious. And Christine's going to make terrible memes for us to react to. So Nick can do his hot takes. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. Nick needs to do his hot takes.
Could do or Nick, if you don't want to do that, we could do a hot takes and hot cakes pancake eating challenge for donations.
Like pancakes full of chili powder? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Actually, Nick has to talk trash about different comic books in between each pancake. How about that?
You're going to get full real fast.
Yeah, he is.
Because we're not talking those little silver dollar pancakes either. We're talking pancakes.
Oh, yeah.
I like the sound of that. So, have you had an opportunity to see the second episode of She-Hulk yet?
I even did something professional and made 3 notes, 3 talking points.
3 notes? Wow.
4 talking points.
That's so professional. I just am going to wing it.
So right off the bat, and I busted out laughing the second I saw it. Did you notice what her wallpaper was on her cell phone when it showed her cell phone?
Not that I recall.
It was Captain America's butt.
Fair enough.
I was like, okay, this is like the best on-running joke so far. One thing that I do like is I'm definitely enjoying about it is how they kind of talk about things that only comic book nerds would actually think about. You know, like the whole Captain America conversation that they had in the beginning of it about the time and what was really going on with him and if he did die that way or not. The thing I liked about this one was her dad bringing up, does Hawkeye go pick up all his arrows afterwards, or does he just leave them laying around because that's kind of dangerous?
That was hysterical. The whole scene with her family was very funny.
Yep.
Hang on one sec. Ryan, man, Mandy can't be posting awesome pictures of food and then saying, hey, y'all want some if she can't deliver, man, because that just the picture of that sandwich made me so hungry. So hungry. And then that was just mean. That was mean. Kyle, how you doing, man? Hope all is well. Good to see you on here, sir, as always.
The torn spiral part on She-Hulk? What are we talking about?
I don't know. She heard me and laughed. That was so painful. That sandwich looked good. A pastrami Reuben, and man, that looked like a man-sized sandwich. Like that was going to stick to your ribs. Oh, man. Well, Nick, you said you had to swing by Marco's for supper because you missed Haven so much. I'm sure that Marco, we should talk to Marco's about being a sponsor for this show because we order an awful lot of Marco's up at the store.
Hey, I am all down for that because I love the Marco's Pizza Bowl. Those things are so flipping good. It's nothing but meat, cheese, sauce, and grease. You cannot get any better.
It is
no
delicious.
Bread to soak up the grease. It's great.
Have you seen the big commercial that Papa John's is doing now where they're like, we have now pizza in a bowl with no crust? I'm like, yeah, Marco's does it better.
Mm-hmm. I do have to try the Papa John's one, though. I got to try it so I at least know.
I'm with you. I'll try it. But Justin Birch, look at that. We have a Justin Birch sighting.
Hey, Justin, check Twitter right quick. I left you a message. Or are you still hurt because Punk lost last night? Ha ha. He'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Marco should do a charity event with Haven because we fund that location. You're not wrong.
Man, I funded that location last weekend. I'll probably fund it sometime in the next week.
I will tell you one time I called up on a Saturday, and because there for a bit we just ordered the same thing all the time. I called up and I was like, hey, I wanted to place an order, and they're like, we're on our way. And I was like, I haven't told you what I want. And they said, you want this, 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 and this. I said, yep. I said, yep, it's on its way. I was like, that's awesome. Waiting for a 1-year-old to fall asleep. But you could be here all day with that. Or it could be very quick. God only knows. We wish you luck. We wish you luck. Let's get Haven an Instagram. Everybody wants us to do Instagram. And I still owe you our Twitter stuff.
2 seconds. Justin, as soon as that 1-year-old falls asleep, check your DM on Instagram. Josh, yes, you do owe me the Twitter stuff. And we have got to sit down and create Haven an Instagram account.
That sounds like something a lot of people have been saying we need to do, and I've just never done it because I'm at the end of what I can do from a social media perspective.
Christine is right. Instagram is silly, but it's nothing but pictures. I mean, it's literally just pictures. And the way Instagram is set up now, you can literally, if you post it to Instagram and it's linked to your Facebook, it'll automatically post over to Facebook also. And you would be surprised at how many people sell comics on Instagram. I've always been kind of surprised by that.
But then we would have to have Rad Haven pictures to share.
Well, I am up there just about every Friday, so I can take some Rad Haven pictures.
Well, there you go. Pay one of my interns. You know we don't pay our interns.
Nick.
I will say this. One of our interns, if you guys come up on Saturdays, he's there a lot. 13-year-old Ryan French. Awesome kid. Man, he's awesome. He's the oldest of 4 boys. He and one of his younger brothers both got parts in a local production of A Christmas Story that's happening this year, and their dad is playing the dad. That's a whole family affair. It's A Christmas Story, and Ryan got cast as Ralphie. So he's going to get an eye out in the whole 9 yards, man. That's going to be awesome. I'm excited about that. 2 brothers sell slabs on Instagram. I know they post a lot of things that I'm guessing come from Instagram because they post them on Facebook, but they don't have links to the YouTube things. They say, go watch this, but they don't have a link.
I saw that earlier today, and I saw your comment, and I just busted out laughing because I was thinking the exact same thing. I'd love to go watch it. Where's the link at?
Yep. Make it easy for me.
Really?
Don't make me push too many buttons. But we were talking She-Hulk. You were talking about Captain America's butt, and then the conversation. So she has a picture of Captain America's butt as her wallpaper on her phone.
Yes, and I literally, because as soon as it showed her phone, I kind of glanced. I was like, wait a minute, what was that? Because the picture looked weird. So I rewound it a couple of seconds and paused it, and sure enough, it is Captain America's butt is her wallpaper.
That's hilarious. I did not notice that.
I guess we should have started this out with potential spoilers ahead, but that's.
I don't really think that qualifies as a spoiler.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely some funny moments about it. The end scene after the end credits scene, I thought was great with her doing all the chores for her parents, because that's exactly how it would be around my house if one of the kids popped up with Hulk powers. I'd be like, oh, you need to move that and take care of it now. Jacob would literally be weed eating the yard while the Hulk.
Ryan's the man.
I've got big goals for this channel, Ryan. I think we can get to at least 200 subscribers.
We're what, 12 away from that now?
Yeah. Baby steps. We're going baby steps this thing.
He said he wants to get more Havenites. I don't know. Have I told y'all how we got the term Havenites? Did I ever tell you that, Alan?
I know the term, but the audience may not know how you got it.
Well, in case they don't, I will share. Right after we opened the store, 2001, with a few of us went up to Chicago to the Wizard World comic book convention up there, and George Perez was there. And I got in line to get something from George, and he did a sketch of Wonder Woman, which is up on the wall at the store. You can see it now. And he said, "Do you want me to make it out to anybody?" And I said, "Well, this is for my store." And he said, "What's the name of the store?" And I said, "Haven Comics." And he said, "Havenites." And we got the name Havenites that we call people from George Perez. That was directly from George Perez. He made it up, and we have used it ever since. So that's how we got that.
Hey, Christine, are we talking about WB on TV or what? Because I'm still kind of iffy on this whole Discovery thing with what all they're doing so far. I'd heard something about that they were going to combine a couple of their streaming services, which I personally think is a good idea. I'm sick and tired of all these streaming services already.
You just want to go back to cable?
To be honest with you, once they start talking about, oh, you can save all this money, but once you end up getting all the streaming services to watch the shows you want to watch, you're right back to paying cable prices.
Yeah, pretty close. Pretty close. But no, Discovery is Warner Brothers and everything owned by Warner Brothers. Discovery is just going in there like they know what they're doing, and they have not demonstrated that they do. They're axing people, they're cutting stuff, they're moving stuff, and it's like, what is this? What's going on? And that's going to trickle down into the comics too. I saw somebody had a petition out earlier for NBC Peacock. Please buy Warner Brothers. I was like, NBC Peacock? Why would you do that? That's like asking somebody to, Walmart, would you please buy this high-end store? Like, what are you going to do with that? Come on now.
So have you heard anything about what they're going to end up doing with DC Comics?
No, but there was a time when Robert Kirkman was rumored to be trying to purchase the publishing rights for DC Comics.
He would have been a good one too.
Oh man, what I wouldn't give to have Robert Kirkman take that over. He would put talent in over there. He would turn back to actual stories for people instead of let's just keep telling Batman over and over and over, which is what they're doing now. It's painful. I love Batman, and there's so much Batman, it's impossible to keep up. If you only read Batman from DC, you still couldn't keep up. But I love the idea of Kirkman being in charge.
So I just let everybody know, this is kind of becoming fun for me. Like just before the show starts, I go on Twitter and I send the link to the show, and then I start just tagging people that so far I've tagged, like I was telling Josh before we went live, I've tagged Todd McFarlane, AWA Studios, Jim Lee, several others. Well, Todd mentioned Robert Kirkman, and I am now hitting tag on Robert Kirkman to see if he wants to come on live. I'm telling you, one day someone is going to respond, and I'm probably going to break down in tears. It's going to scare me to death.
I tell you, back in the day, this is similar time frame. It would have been 2003, 2004, I think 2003 thereabouts. Robert Kirkman was doing a book that not a ton of people knew about called Battle Pope. This is well before he hit it big with The Walking Dead, right? Mm-hmm. And Battle Pope was about the most sacrilegious thing you could imagine. It was something.
Wait a minute. Hang on. I need to address this right quick. Scott, brother, you're in the wrong place. Digger ain't here either. He's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. We're not talking about NASCAR. That is not even a sport. The only thing them boys can do that I can't do is drive for 5 hours straight without stopping to go to the bathroom. And there's no guarantee they're not doing it in the car.
We'll be doing that stuff too, Ryan. Don't sweat that. But Robert Kirkman was doing this book, Battle Pope, in which the Pope is a cigar chomping. He's got the mouth of a sailor. He does not abide by any kind of chastity rules. He mostly is toting around a whole bunch of guns, and he is just starting wars and ending wars left and right, right? So I asked Ultimate Josh, UJ, when we went up to the con, and he was watching the store while we were gone. I said, hey, is there anything you want me to bring you back? And he said, I want you to bring me back. He said, get Robert Kirkman to draw a picture of Battle Pope giving you the finger and saying F you. And I'm like, are you serious? And he goes, yeah, that's what I want. I'm like, all right. So I go to Robert Kirkman and I tell him, I said, the guy who's watching my store so I can be here, this is what he wants. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And so he drew it and he signed it. And, when you walk around a convention and you've got a sketchbook and you get sketches from people, all the artists, they kind of flip through it to see what else did you get, right?
Uh-huh.
They're kind of judging you a little. Every last one of them stopped at that and was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Yeah, it was spectacular. It was crazy, but it was spectacular.
Oh, there was one other thing. Back to She-Hulk, and then I'm done with She-Hulk.
Yeah.
When they go into the bar and she slams several drinks as She-Hulk, and then she turns back to Jen, what happens then?
Yes.
I thought was great. I mean, I know that they said a few months ago, hey, this is going to be a comedy. There's been some comedic elements to it, but so far it hadn't been like your typical comedy. So I've enjoyed that.
It hasn't been like a ha-ha, laugh a minute kind of a show. It's had comedic moments, and it feels lighthearted overall.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like wink, wink, nudge, nudge all the time. It just lets the comedy happen kind of naturally, and I like that too.
And
my favorite bit from this was when she's wrestling with the moral decision she's wrestling with in this episode, and she talks to Bruce about it. And Bruce says, lots changed since then. I was a different person back then, literally. And he's referring back to the movie from 2008, 2009, in which the Hulk was played by Ed Norton. That was hysterical.
Yep.
Oh my God, that was absolutely hysterical. I was a different person back then, literally. And you're like, 100% a different person.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Little subtle things is what's making it fun so far.
Yeah, there's been a lot of little, if you're a comics fan at all, it's lots of little inside jokes and Easter eggs, and that's been a lot of fun.
Yes, and I really enjoyed the conversation that they had when they were on the phone, how she was doing all the talking, and every once in a while he would try to say something, then get cut off. I just thought that, because I mean, that's typically how a conversation like that would go.
And then the way that conversation ended was also hilarious.
Yeah.
That was quite funny. That amused me. But no, the whole thing, so far, I have really enjoyed it. It's not like stupendous. It's not like, oh my gosh, I must watch this immediately, but it's fun and it feels fresh. I will say the episodes feel extremely short.
Yes.
The second episode in particular felt very, very short.
Okay. I just noticed this comment right here. Do you know anything about this? I mean, Nick, you got an inside scoop as that little influencer parlay, whatever that person thing was that y'all were supposed to do that they backed out of? You got some, I mean, can we get a scoop on this? Tell me something, brother.
Well, that's what I have been hearing too.
So when they say, well, I mean, we probably won't be able to answer this question, but we can always, like, just because we don't know the answer doesn't mean we can't argue about it. When they say that they're going to audit, I mean, do we think that they might possibly be going in and seeing which books are making money, which ones aren't, and axing titles and stuff? Or
that's possible, but I think it's going to be bigger than that. I think it'll be like whole divisions and things like that. So
let's stick with the books for just a second. And hey, this is my opportunity to interview you. As a store owner, which DC books that, I mean, from literally just strictly from your perspective as being an owner, which DC books are actually the worst selling books and which titles could they axe? And I know that's kind of a loaded question because we
They
have
could pretty much axe anything except Batman.
really.
Pretty much. DC has been for a long time, but it's been getting progressively worse. Uh, they have the most recognizable superheroes on the planet. There's not a person on the planet who doesn't recognize Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, uh, everybody, Green Lantern, everybody knows these things. You see them, you know who they are, right? They haven't been able to tell a decent story for those characters outside of Batman in a long time. Our subscriber numbers for some of those titles are shockingly low. Shockingly low. I mean, this is a perennial. Wonder Woman should have a big following. Nope, it's not there. And it's not because the character is not a compelling character. It's because they don't have a. You remember when George Perez came in on Wonder Woman back in the day? You remember that? Well, he did Wonder Woman in the 80s. This was a long time ago.
To be honest with you, and I know this is going to sound weird, the only Wonder Woman that I even loosely followed was the New 52.
Okay, yeah, you would have to go back a long ways. But when George Perez took over Wonder Woman, it was like, boom, Wonder Woman just hit this sudden height of popularity. And sustained it for a good long while. And then into the 90s, everybody went through the grim and gritty, dark, bad girl phase, all that kind of stuff across all those titles. Mike Deodato Jr. came in and he was doing the art for Wonder Woman, and it was spectacular. The stories were okay. They weren't as good as the art, but it was good and it sold well. Now, I think we have 2, maybe 3 subscribers on Wonder Woman.
Really?
That's it. Action Comics, same thing. 3 subscribers on Action Comics.
See, Action Comics lost me right after that whole Oz storyline thing where they brought his dad back, and I was just kind of, why are we doing this? Yeah. That's when that lost me.
But they haven't been able to tell a consistent story and have consistent art that got people's attention in a really, really long time. And that goes across the board. We have more readers for Flash than we do for Action Comics or Wonder Woman and Green Lantern. Aquaman has like 2 subscribers. I mean, it's just next to nothing. You have these incredible properties and they can't do anything with it to get people excited. And that's criminal. Then you take a character like Nightwing, right? Great character, always has been. Nightwing's a cool guy. So you can tell all kinds of stories with him and Dick Grayson. You can do a lot of things. But you put Tom Taylor on it, and suddenly Nightwing becomes, whoo, that's a great book. Nightwing has as many subscribers as Action Comics, Wonder Woman, and Flash combined.
Wow.
Combined. And this is just at my shop, right?
And, not coming from a shop owner, anybody that's not reading Nightwing, you are flat out missing out because it is an amazing book. Tom Taylor literally took one issue of Nightwing, and literally the entire issue is about Nightwing trying to save his dog. The entire issue is literally him running they didn't even have panels in the issue. It was like one continuous shot of Nightwing chasing down the person that kidnapped his dog. And halfway through that book, you're like, oh my God, I hope he gets her back. The way he writes this stuff, if you're not reading Nightwing, you're flat out missing out.
I wish there were more stories like that here it is in this one issue. You got a beginning, a middle, and an end. I missed that in comics. This 6-issue story arc that they mandate is killing comic books because not all stories need to be 6 issues. Mm-mm. Some of them need to be 8 or 10. Some of them need to be 3. Most of them just need to be 1 or 2.
Now, this current Nightwing story that's kind of lingering in the background, Heartless needs to be the way he's dragging it out. Heartless is going to end up being a very complex character.
Right. And I think that's a great idea. to have those kind of stories, but it needs to vary. It needs to breathe. It doesn't need to be these big chunks, big chunks, big chunks, because that's not organic stories. Not all stories are the same length.
Well, see, I like the way he's doing Heartless with he's there and then he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
And then a bunch of stuff happens, and then wait a minute, we've got like a panel of 2 of Heartless. I mean, he's in the background somewhere.
In that issue, he was like John Wick, but he didn't kill 437 people. That issue was so creative that the entire book was one giant panel.
Yeah,
and that was so creative. There was a store, I forget where. I want to say someplace in California, or maybe it was. They said they have a really long hallway down to their bathroom, and they said to get the panel to work out, you had to use 3 copies of the book. But they put the book, the entire panel ran the length of their hallway. It was, I think he said, a 16-foot hallway or something, but it ran the whole length of the hallway when they put the book out. It was awesome.
So let's remove, because Batman's always going to sell.
Yeah.
And I know that might be someone lurking in the background that's going to argue with me on this, but Tom King is the GOAT when it comes to writing Batman. Zdarsky, we haven't seen enough of his Batman run. He's done great with The Knight. Batman 126, Zdarsky, if you ever see this,
oh my God,
the way that you've ended that, I have complained about the way Batman 126 is ended for 2 solid weeks now. You do not end it like that without giving me at least 10 more pages to follow up.
That was harsh. I was a week behind getting to that one, but when I read it, I was like flipping to the next page, like that can't be right.
Yeah, it's like you see it, you close the book, you throw it across the room, you scream "damn you," and you just stomp out in a huff.
Yeah. Batman 125 was a good, solid, like establishing kind of a deal for his arc and a good setup, and 126 just left you going, you can't do that. No.
So if we remove Batman and Nightwing from the equation,
yep,
and we look at all the other titles, how do you rebuild the core of DC and bring their books back to where they need to be without Batman and Nightwing? Because those are all
good writers. DC, I think Bill had it up here, yeah. It's been artist driven, and that's true, and it's been cover driven largely, not even the whole book. But bring in people with good stories and do compelling things. Part of DC's problem is that I get the motivation for this, but it's also a problem and it causes issues. Coming out of Dark Knight's death metal, going into Infinite Frontier, what they essentially did was they said everything is canon and nothing is canon. Right? So there is no consequence. If you have a story arc where these things happen, and the next writer who comes in picks up and he's like, none of that ever happened. He can keep going. And it just throws it all out. And the problem that editorial doesn't understand is without consequence, then nothing matters. It absolutely does not matter if it doesn't matter. So if there's no consequence to Batman just killed that dude, and you have to deal with the fallout from that forever because he did that thing, then it doesn't make any difference. So what? Batman killed a guy. Who cares? Whoop-de-doo. I'm not bound by it. Doesn't matter. And they've done that across their entire line. That's what the whole point of Infinite Frontier was that. Which was a real problem. And you're not wrong there either, Nick. Let characters be different. Let them have a thing. I mean, back in the day, Green Arrow, his whole shtick was that he was like the uber liberal side of Batman, right? He's a millionaire, but he's crazy liberal, and he's going to do all this stuff where Batman is crazy conservative. And they had those political fights back and forth. Now there's none of that. Everybody's vanilla. Let's not make everybody. Let's just keep everybody vanilla. Let your characters be different. But to succeed in bringing those characters back to where they should be, they need to do something interesting. They need to bring on writers who don't have an idea for a story They have an idea for a long arc of what to do with the character, and they jump in right from the bat, and no pun intended, and they push that, and they get people excited to come back. They just haven't been able to do it in a long time, and I don't know if they tried it kind of with Bendis when Bendis left Marvel and decided to come to DC, but Bendis was the wrong guy for that. Bendis had a niche audience, and him jumping from Marvel to DC felt like a betrayal to a lot of people who just were like, I'm not going to read it. I'm just not going to read it. So they didn't. There's this, bring in somebody who's going to get people excited and make sure that they know what they're doing. That's what they need to do. You need to have a whole issue, and every one of those characters could sustain it too. Flash, certainly. Wonder Woman, absolutely. Superman, you should be able to tell good stories with Superman, and they just have found it hard to do. Superman should have a similar earnestness, a similar vibe to him that Captain America has, right? He's going to do the right thing, not because he's naive and stupid, but because it's the right thing. But instead, they paint Superman like he's just kind of this Pollyanna, rainbow and sunshine person when he's not. He's just going to do the right thing, even if it hurts. And is it difficult to write around that given his power set? Yeah, they've made him so powerful that it's who's going to challenge him? Who's going to go out and pose an honest to God threat to him? And how are you going to do that? So you have to find other ways to tell that story.
The sad thing about that is, and I know that there was a while back we kind of ran into somebody that wanted to keep talking about it all the time on here, so I kind of hate bringing it up. But Doomsday Clock, they're going to bring Superman and Dr. Manhattan together. That was an honest to God challenge for both those characters. But they dropped the ball so hard.
Yep.
The entire setup was trash. The payoff was trash. It was like, is there anybody that wants to buy all 12 issues of Doomsday Clock at one time? I've got them on sale. Just to get rid of them. The writing on that was just god awful when they had the perfect opportunity to do it.
This right here, yeah, I've seen the fan idea where the government tries to kill Clark Kent, and they can't do it because it always goes wrong, and they don't realize he's Superman, and that's a funny idea. I would read that. Like, why can't we kill this guy? We must have missed when we tried to shoot him. The poison didn't get delivered. What happened? They just can't kill him, and they have no idea why it's not working. That would be very funny, but compelling if they did it right. That could be quite funny.
So, with Discovery doing everything that they're doing and the way they're auditing DC, how well is the Black Label doing? Do you think that the Black Label could possibly be on the chopping block?
The Black Label never turned into what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be. It was supposed to be the Touchstone Pictures, right? The more grown-up stuff. But some people who don't even read comics got offended by what was in the very first one that came out, and DC listened to them instead of just saying, you know what? Not one of these people who's crying and complaining has ever bought a comic book. We're not going to listen to them. They changed everything. They completely neutered the line. And then they decided, well, let's just label everything Black Label. And they put out a whole bunch of garbage instead of the vetted stories that they were going to tell that were going to have meat on the bone and be really interesting. They just started spewing out Joker and Harley stories like, oh my God, can we have more of these? Like, no, nobody's crying for this. I will say the exception to that rule has been one of the ones that was promised first because it was in the initial Black Label marketing material. Is the Wonder Woman Historia book. It's 3 issues. It's that format that I hate. That's the magazine size, which we have no way of racking them, storing them, putting them in subscriber boxes because they're too big. But that book has been absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous, like a lesson in art of what you can do in a comic book. It has absolutely been like that. I think the second issue finally came out. It's much delayed, but it is absolutely stunningly beautiful. Phil Jimenez did the first issue, and if you haven't looked at it, I strongly encourage you to look at it because it's one of the most beautiful comics I've ever seen in my life. It's glorious.
So how was the story with it?
The story's good. I mean, it's called Historia, so it goes way back in time. And it deals with like this origin of Wonder Woman from the beginning. And then it kind of goes through this progression over time, and it's a little esoteric and it's kind of out there, but it's really, really fantastic. I strongly recommend it. Really, really good stuff. But yeah, the whole Black Label thing isn't really a label anymore. They just slap it on whatever they feel like. This will get nobody's buying all the Black Label books, right? When they got rid of Vertigo, that was a stupid move on their part.
Yeah, Vertigo was great.
Vertigo had a cachet to it. People recognized the name Vertigo. They knew that you were going to get Sandman or Lucifer or Preacher. They knew the quality of what they were going to get. Vertigo was phenomenal. And when they cut Vertigo, that was just a really stupid move on their part. And I think they've been paying the price for it ever since. Because now they don't have a place to tell those kind of stories. Vertigo was like a whole separate world where you could tell different kinds of stories, and now it all is just under the DC brand, and you can't tell those stories under the DC brand. So they don't. That kind of stuff is all gone.
So with a Black Label, how is Nice House on the Lake doing?
Middling.
Really? Because I've actually enjoyed that one because of the Twilight Zone vibe that it has. And that's the thing that I've really enjoyed about it. But do you think that was that 10 or 12 issues is what Nice House on the Lake is supposed to be, I believe?
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be 6, but then they pushed it to 12.
So do you think that when Nice House on the Lake ends, we may be seeing the end of Black Label or those style of stories? Do you think they'll go more traditionally back to superheroes?
I don't know. I'm just saying, if I'm Warner Discovery coming in and doing an audit of DC, I'm seeing a whole lot of stuff that ain't making any money. I mean, a whole lot of stuff that's not only not making money, I'm seeing stuff that's losing money. And I'm seeing these properties that should be making money hand over fist that are just laying fallow, and they're doing nothing. They're just barely keeping the name alive, and that just drives me insane. Well, this is where you get a different kind of fan base, Bill. If you just keep people around because of the art, you get a different kind of fan base, and you don't get readers. And readers are the people who long-term keep something going, right? I don't get G.I. Joe just because of the art. I've looked at G.I. Joe and it had some terrible art. But I read G.I. Joe because I'm invested in the characters and I'm invested in the story. And it means something to me. And that's been a lifelong companion since 1982. That's awesome. And you get people who are loyal to that. You don't get people who are loyal to an art, just to the art in a book. Because guess what? Artists move. Artists go to other books. Artists jump and go to other companies. And then you just lost your fan base. You can't keep the same person on it forever. You need stories, and you need stories that connect with people, that are interesting to the brain and connect with the heart. That's how you get and keep readers. And that's how you build a fan base that's successful.
Now, see, what nobody else can see is on my other screen, I've got League of Comic Geeks pulled up, and I'm kind of scrolling. And other than Detective Comics, there's really nothing coming out DC-wise, or to be honest with you, Marvel, that I would even care about reading right now.
Well, there's a few DC books that are coming up that I think are interesting and should I'm really curious about. Actually, I've got several comics on here to talk about. These are all things that are in the current, um, uh, the current previews, or they're going to be in next month's previews that comes out this coming week.
Well, let's do
And one of those is this. It's Batman and the Joker, The Deadly Duo by Mark Silvestri. Mark Silvestri, who he and Jim Lee are like tied for the best run on X-Men art ever. And I may give the nod to Mark Silvestri just a smidge. Mark Silvestri's run on Wolverine was also impeccable. I've always liked his art. His stories, he's had some good stories that he didn't execute as well as I hoped he would. But he's got this coming out from DC in October, I believe, and he's been working on this story for over 3 years. He is emotionally invested in this, and I'm curious to see what in the world he does with it.
I'm seeing a release date of November 1st.
Okay, so the beginning of November.
I'll tell you what, remove that from the screen and let me pull this up right quick.
Hang on, I got a couple others I want to show from DC real quick. One of those is John Stewart, The Emerald Knight. That looks interesting to me.
So my issue with the last Green Lantern book was I read it, and I know this is going to sound really weird, but it was almost like they tried to make it too sci-fi.
Oh, well, absolutely. Yeah. Are you talking about Far Sector?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was supposed to be more sci-fi, and I think they accomplished it. And they did actually. That book was pretty popular overall. That was more popular than the regular Green Lantern title.
So now this is kind of cool right here.
But there's one other book here, and this one I hesitate to even say it's DC, but it is because that's who Jim Lee sold it to. But Wildcats is coming back, and it's written by Matt Rosenberg.
Yes. I cannot wait.
I'm excited about this because Matt Rosenberg knows how to do a lot with a little bit. And I think he can do something really, really good with these characters, and I'm excited to see what he does with it. Plus, Zealot is there. I always liked Zealot.
We were talking about it last Saturday, and Tom Price and I had when I was in. See, they don't even have Wildcats, the new series coming out on Leave Comic Geek. So I was trying to pull these books up over here at the same time. But according to that synopsis, it's basically going to be Wildcat, in a nutshell, Wildcats meets the Court of Owls.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
So there is so much that they can do.
Yep.
Just with Grifter, Zealot versus the Court of Owls. But the one that I'm kind of interested in seeing how he reacts to the Court of Owls is going to be Spartan.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that one, that could be, I mean, Grifter and Zealot are just going to go in, and I mean, it's going to be a bloody mess. I mean, it's going to be a flat out free for all between them and Talon. But the way Spartan reacts, I think that right there could really, really, really make the book.
From an editorial perspective, I've thought the last few things they've done with Wildstorm properties, like the whole Michael Cray and all that, were not superhero focused at all. And Wildcats was always a superhero book.
Yeah.
And it works better as a secret superhero book. It's a superhero book like with a tinge of S.H.I.E.L.D. to it, right? The whole covert ops thing. But they need to make it a superhero book. And I will tell you, Matt Rosenberg, if you're not familiar with him, he's not a household name at this point, but I wish he were. He did a story in Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood that was by far the best Wolverine story I have read in a long time. It was fantastic. He wrote 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank. He wrote What's the Furthest Place from Here. He has been writing quite a few books for DC, including he's got the upcoming DC versus Vampires. And he's done a couple of books in the, I want to say it's in the Deceased. Yeah, in the Deceased realm. He's done a couple of books there. That's been really good. Is Night of Steel going on? That's a 12-issue limited series. So it's, although they are releasing a kind of a prequel to this, to Night of Steel, that's when the kids are younger. We'll see how that shakes out. I've enjoyed Night of Steel, um, but we'll see. I don't know.
Now, have you been reading DC versus Vampires?
I have not, if I'm honest. I have not.
It's been fun. It's been really fun, to be honest with you, because somebody's dying every single issue. I mean, and it's characters that you wouldn't think would be dying. Nightwing being basically the Vampire King has been just absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's
a perfect character for that.
Yeah. Now, I was going to show you this right quick, and I have a special request, and anybody else that sees this, you're not allowed because I'm asking first. We need 25 copies so I can have this one in 25 cover. When you're talking about it, I pulled it up to see what all it was saying. Oh, wait a minute, I need to get up over this screen. And these are the variants that are coming out. Now, you got to give DC credit where credit is due. They can put out some amazing variants.
Yeah, I'll go back to what Bill said, though. The variant cover is killing comic books because it doesn't become about the story anymore. It becomes, I got this cover of the story.
Yeah.
And from a retailer perspective, how do I know which one to order? Because people aren't pre-ordering specific covers.
Yep.
And then they come in and ask for it, and that's the one they want, but that isn't the one they got because they didn't order it. It's a nightmare. It makes life a world of hurt. And I'll tell you, there are so many variant covers for every single book that ordering comics used to be about a 4-hour, 5-hour process once a month, and now it takes about 17, 18 hours.
Well, we can thank Gen 13 for all that.
Well, part of it is having to do it on 3 different distributors now, having to do the order, and there's all 3 different systems, and only one of those systems is worth a darn. The other 2 are garbage, and one of them is more garbage than the other. I mean, it's extremely painful. Doing the monthly order now is not my favorite, I will just say. I used to always enjoy it. Now it's just painful. And I break it up and spread it over 3 days.
There was something else. Okay,
so while we're talking new comics that are coming out that I'm excited about, there's a few others. This one right here. Alex Ross is doing a Fantastic Four book. 3 words for you. Sign me up. That is going to be spectacular. I'm really excited about that one.
So is it going to be a mini series or will it be a new ongoing series?
It's Alex Ross, so it's not going to be ongoing.
Is it going to be done kind of like Marvel's was done way back in the day?
It looks to be more like some of that, but also more like the life story. I think this one's called Full Circle.
Okay.
But yeah, another one, and I'm excited about this and I know that Nick is going to want to punch me in the throat, but I'm excited to have Mark Bagley back on Spider-Man.
Nick wants you to sign him up for that book. He wants 2 copies of every single issue that comes out. He needs it.
Yeah, it's written by Dan Slott, so that's going to make him happy.
Look, even he said it's going to be super duper fantastic. That's what happens when I take stuff out of context, Nick.
Well, that's true. This one I'm excited about, and now the name of it isn't popping on there. It just says Guardians of the Galaxy. This is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind.
Is it going to be based off of the ride?
Correct. It is based off the brand new attraction at Epcot at Disney World.
Nice.
And I have got to tell you, I'm excited for that. I am very excited for that.
So
they have been quietly doing some things that are based on the attractions. Like they did one for the web of Spider-Man. That's based on the Spider-Man attraction out at California Adventure. They've got one, the Halcyon Legacy, the Star Wars Halcyon Legacy, which is based on the new Star Wars hotel down at Disney World. That's you're on an intergalactic cruise ship. And this one is the most recent one in that vein. And I think that's awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
I think I saw something the other day about either they're talking about or they are doing a Big Thunder Mountain movie.
Yes. They were originally, when they made that Lone Ranger movie, they thought it was going to be like Pirates of the Caribbean and just make bazillions of dollars. And they were going to do an overlay on the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad from that and turn Big Thunder Mountain Railroad into a Pirates into a Lone Ranger themed attraction.
That
But
movie
Lone
was
Ranger did not do well at the box office, and so they pulled it. Thank God that the new Lightyear movie didn't do well because they were going to retheme Space Mountain to Lightyear. Like, no, thank you. Leave Space Mountain alone. Leave Space Mountain alone.
Here's
another one I'm excited about. G.I. Joe number 300. I told you every single G.I. Joe character ever is on this cover, and I wasn't kidding. Look at that.
Oh. So, okay, we got to talk about G.I. Joe 300.
This just requires every G.I. Joe nerd to, like, study this cover. I mean, this is going to be hours worth of work right here.
So this should be coming out around December, correct?
Yep.
Is that when we should be getting that?
Yep.
So do we have, is G.I. Joe definitely going to Skybound, or do we even know yet?
We just know that it's not going to be at IDW.
Because I had read a thing, this was a while back, that was talking about if it does go to Skybound, it might be March or April before they get the first issue out under Skybound, which would, I don't know if they would stick with the legacy numbering or what.
I doubt it. They're going to want to kick it off with their own new 100. I think it would be awesome if they stuck with the legacy numbering and brought Larry Hama over. That would be spectacular. But I suspect that that's not going to be the case. I think they're going to start back over with a new number 1. We'll see. But they are built. That story is called All In, and it's not joking around, man. Everybody is all in. It's G.I. Joe versus Cobra for the fate of the world, and you got to go all in. That's going to be awesome. Here's an odd book that's coming out, and I find this very strange because if they want to revive these properties, this is not the way to do it. 4 different cross-gen books are being reprinted. A story from 4 cross-gen books is being reprinted in this book. So, okay, Sojourn, yep, got it, and Ruse. Those were the 2 big sellers, right? Got it, perfect. But Mystic was never their biggest seller. And I don't even remember the name of this book right now that the dude is from. Down in the bottom right.
He kind of looks like a knockoff Cable.
He wasn't at all, but I see why you say that. But I don't know. They're going to just pick a story and put it in this book, and how do they think that's going to create any kind of sales? The only people who are going to buy it are nostalgics like me who really enjoyed CrossGen.
I mean, if they're going to do that, bring back Nth Man.
Yeah. You're not alone, Kyle.
Definitely not alone.
Joe too.
I spent lunch looking at Hasbro Pulse today.
Yeah, I definitely expect to see some movie announcements and such with D23 coming up. I also expect to see some other stuff about Walt Disney World, particularly some announcements for refurbing some of the existing rides. I'm hoping to God this is the year where they say what, for Epcot's 40th anniversary, which is October 1st. One of the announcements they make, I'm hoping, is going to be that they're finally going to do a redo of the Imagination Pavilion and fix what they broke back in 1998.
When is D23?
Soon. It's this month, so I think it's this coming weekend.
I wonder if we'll get the X-Men announcement there.
That's entirely possible. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. We'll certainly have a lot to talk about after D23 because they're going to make a lot of announcements. They always do. And that'll be announcements for Marvel, because Marvel always has a comic panel there. I mean, I sat there and watched Joe Quesada for his Cup of Joe panel. Actually, that was really funny. There were some seats, and then there were some seats up at the front, and I'm like, man, those are great seats. We're gonna go sit up there, and we went and sat up there, and turns out I was sitting next to, no, not next to, she was in front of me. She was the row in front. Joe Quesada's wife and his daughter. I had no idea who they were, but we ended up talking. Then it became clear who they were. And then she was talking about hoping that Chris Evans was going to come out on stage because she thought he was the cutest. And now this girl was like 4 or 5, right? And I said, have you met Chris Evans? And she said, he's my favorite. And I'm like, man,
I'm down for it.
Ooh, yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'm sure that I will be working during most of that, but I would be down for some D23 live stream chat because that would be spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, that would be excellent. Serious question, Dana Major, how you doing, man? Marcus, the X-Men. I don't think so. Actually, I think it could be very good for the comics if the X-Men have a good movie. And if Marvel has enough sense to say, you know what, let's stop drowning people in X-Men, reduce it to 1, maybe 2 titles, and just, I don't know, tell good stories. The Marauders, Fallen Angels, you can't, nobody, the most diehard X-Men fans cannot keep up with all the X-Men stuff that's being put out right now. And it's painful. It's very painful. The market insanity stuff, there's certainly the distribution wars, just like we had in the early to mid 90s. All the variant covers and the speculator stuff, just like the 90s. A lot of the same issues that you're asking here that just about killed comics in the mid 90s. They're certainly here. They're absolutely present, and they do feel like they're on that same collision course again, right? But there's a stable element here that's now that we didn't have before. In the 90s, because everything was just so wild and unchained and it was everywhere. I feel like there's a really stable core, and that core is primarily in the independent books. The independent books, there's a lot of good independent books right now, and there are publishers who are not doing the crazy stuff. They're just telling good stories. AWA is one I would point to, man. AWA is telling good stories. They're not all great, but they're all good. And I tell you what I want to see is Redemption.
I would love to see a sequel to Redemption, but the only way that you could see it was if you actually did some type of prequel to it.
True, but I would like to see. It's clear when they made Redemption that they had already cast that book in their minds for a movie, and it was quite clear that Linda Hamilton was who they cast for that lead role. And I'm not mad at that. I would love to see that.
Well, when it first came out, that very first issue, you and I both were like, "Oh, that's Linda Hamilton." I mean, third page.
That was like when they came out with the Ultimate Universe, and it was very clear that Nick Fury was Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Like Mark Millar was just, he said, "Hey, Finch, draw me Samuel L. Jackson, because that's who I want to be." And you're like, okay, that's what they got. But yeah, the indie books right now, there are some really solid stuff going on.
Nottingham, you cannot go wrong with Nottingham by Mad Cave.
You can if you can't stand violence and gore.
But we're comic book people. We're supposed to enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, that's true. No, Nottingham is very good. AWA hasn't put out all winners, but they haven't put out anything bad. They haven't put out a stinker yet. Their worst book is actually still pretty good.
Have you read Sacrament yet? The first
I've got it right here in my pile to read. I have not read it yet.
Okay, so and I'm not going to like give you any spoilers or anything, but when you read it, yes, it's new and it's fresh, but at the same time, it feels familiar. I mean, you're going to understand what I talk about when you read it. I mean, I was so impressed with that one because you and I've talked about AWA enough. I mean, Devil's Highway is like the freaking walking dog as far as I'm concerned. Sacrament has the potential to rank right up there with Devil's Highway. I mean, it was that solid of a first issue.
Okay, now I'm excited to read that. And I will say this too. One of the things AWA is doing, we're not shilling for AWA. They don't pay us, by the way. We just like what they do.
If you ever watch this and you want to work something out, yeah, sorry.
For sure. If you want us to shill for you, AWA, just let us know.
Yeah.
But they combine solid stories with good art. Every single book they've put out has had good art, and God bless them. They got Mike Deodato Jr. over there. He is one of the top modern artists for me. I think his work is stunning. His work is absolutely stunning.
So literally, I mean, this is once you open it up and you actually get to looking at it, the art is not too far off from what you see on the cover. I mean, they're doing a great job with it.
Yeah. And I'm not normally a big Milligan fan, but if he can write a good story here, I'm all for it.
He definitely has written by the first issue alone. That's all we've got to go off of.
Yep.
He's got the potential for a truly solid story with this.
Well, I know how much you like Devil's Highway, and if this can approach Devil's Highway in quality of story, this is going to be really good.
Yep.
No, I'm with you on that. I think that's pretty cool. One other book I wanted to talk about is kind of an odd one here, Revelations, Star Wars Revelations. It's a new book coming out that, according to the solicit that they have for it, says this is setting, like ending a chapter and setting up a whole new chapter of Star Wars. Now, they've said things similar to that in the past, but they've never said it quite to where I kind of halfway believed them, and I kind of halfway believe them this time. I'll be interested to see if they actually follow through on what they said they're going to follow through on here.
Well, speaking of Star Wars, the one thing that they've been doing for the people that have not been reading it, everything is taking place in between Star Wars and Empire. Right now, we're in between Empire and Jedi.
Yep.
And this was something that I wanted to ask you about. Nick, don't do that. But with Star Wars, we're leading up to Jedi. We all know what happens in Jedi. What happens to the Darth Vader comics after that? Because with Star Wars, the main title, you can pick up after Jedi, and we've got, 20, 30 years worth of material that's still left to be told in between Jedi and The Force Awakens. But with Darth Vader, are they just going to end the series? Which would be a shame because it's been a great series.
I can't see them doing it because it sells too well.
So
they'll find a way to keep selling it.
I mean, do we go to like some type of classic Darth Vader, like untold stories?
At this point, I have to ask Daniel, are you not seeing them out of spite? Because while some of them are not great, I would absolutely lay the first 3 movies are fan-freaking-tastic. Star Wars A New Hope, especially at the time it came out, but even today, it holds up so well. And then Empire Strikes Back is just spectacular. And Return of the Jedi, for all the hate that it gets now, I don't understand it. Yeah, sure, it's got cute Ewoks and whatnot. I loved that movie. Maybe it's just the time in my life when I saw it. I loved it. But the very first movie, Star Wars A New Hope, as a standalone movie is phenomenal, and I highly recommend it. Some of the others that are offshoots, Rogue One, for example, Rogue One was excellent. If you wanted to watch 1 or 2, you could absolutely do that. Get what people are talking about, and I think you'd probably really enjoy it. Well, that's true. but you would also be a happier person. I mean, you don't have to hang on to that. You're a cool dude in your own right. You can be the guy who ships comics and pool noodles. You still got that going on. Dude, I know that sounds funny, but I'm dead serious.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
When he ships a slabbed book, he takes a pool noodle and he cuts it and forms it around it. So when he ships a slab book, that is not getting beat up. That book is going to show up pristine when it gets shipped out. I sing Daniel's praises on that all the time. But yeah, it's an interesting time in comics. The question you asked earlier, Daniel, about are we headed for another mid-90s market, dissolution? It certainly could be, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be okay. I just think that especially the editors at the big two, editor-in-chief at the big two, they need to get into their heads that they actually are in power, and they need to enforce some kind of control over these comics. By which I don't mean they need to like micromanage the authors or anything, but they need to send, this is what we are doing. These are the kinds of stories we need to tell. This is the direction that we need to go. And then they need to enforce the way stories are told. They need to abandon this whole 6-issue story arc concept that gained traction in the early 2000s. They need to check that out the window. Not every single story needs to be collected into a trade. A whole bunch of them are terrible. Nobody needs all those Nick Spencer issues of Spider-Man because they're awful. I mean, I almost put it up on here just because it drove me insane. Maybe I still can. Did I actually clip the picture of that? If I did, I'll put it up. Okay, I did not clip the picture of it because it just was so dumb to me. There is a new book coming out from Marvel called The Gold Goblin. That's right. Norman Osborn has been trying to put the Green Goblin behind him for so long. Now he's decided he's going to make like Spider-Man and be a good guy, and he's going to run out and save the day. But does he change his outfit and everything completely? No, he's gold from head to toe instead of green and purple. And the media have dubbed him the Gold Goblin. So there is a limited series of the Gold Goblin with freaking Norman Osborn as a superhero struggling with his superhero-ness. Can he ever escape the Goblin? You know how many people want to read that? Zero. Zero people want to read that. Nick does not want to read that. Nick is throwing up in his mouth right now that you said he wants to read that. No one wants to read that. I mean, this is exactly that's the best case scenario. Is you look at it and go, ha, those idiots. Nobody wants to read that. I'll just tell you right now, I have zero faith in that book. If you want to read that book and you are a subscriber at Haven, you better pre-order it because I'm not ordering one single copy more than people have ordered it. I will order it for subs only, and that is it. That's ridiculous.
Nick, hold that comment for just a second because there is a 5-issue miniseries that's coming out that I wanted to ask Josh about. Because it looks interesting. It might be something worthwhile. It might be something that we might enjoy, and we could actually still order it before it comes in. Well, oh, come on. Don't do it to me now.
Oh, The Lost Hunt. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'll put that up because that looked interesting too.
Let me see if I can get it to pull up without doing the flashy thing again. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
It's written by, Diamandis, so, it should be fairly decent.
Well, DeMatteis wrote the original Spider-Man Kraven's Last Hunt story. So I have all the faith in the world there. Yeah, no, that's I almost put that up to look at. I just kind of ran out of time, if I'm honest. I'm going to give this one a read. Not going to lie.
I mean, honestly, with the way everything looks and just reading the brief synopsis on it, it's got the potential to be one to get excited for. And even then, I mean, it's only going to be 5 issues. I mean, we can invest 5 issues, you know?
Well, that goes back to Nick's overall point, which is why does the main Spider-Man book not get the 18? Amazing Spider-Man should get the 18.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it's just like flavor of the week writers. Let's put out as many copies as we can. Oh, and John Romita Jr. He also did the Clone Saga. Nick, I got to tell you, when the Clone Saga first came out, it was awesome. We all thought it was going to be terrible. It was awesome. And then halfway through, when Marvel decided that it's supposed to end here, but you know what? This is making a lot of money, so let's just double how long it's going to be. And they decided to run that for another year and a half. That's when it turned from awesome to awful in one fell swoop. And they couldn't sustain it. And that was not DeMatteis's call to do that. In fact, the whole story wasn't his call to do that. That was editorial telling him, hey, we want to get rid of Peter Parker as Spider-Man.
I've noticed
and that was how to do it.
That when something really goes wrong, it's always editorial.
Oh, that's 90% of the time.
Why can't they just let the writers do their thing?
I mean, because that's a brilliant idea as long as you hire good writers. Step 1, surround yourself with smart people who are good at their jobs, artists and writers. Step 2, get out of their way. If you don't do step 1 right, step 2 you can't do. And post Michelin. I don't necessarily agree with that. There have been good runs, but none that just jumped out as spectacular and awesome. They haven't been that memorable.
Marvel's doing good with Star Wars main title and Darth Vader. Daredevil. If you're not reading Daredevil now, you're an idiot. Good. I mean, you are just flat out an idiot if you're not reading Daredevil, especially the last issue, number 2, that literally came out last week. If you're not reading it, you're missing out. You are denying yourself a fun read. Once again, it's by Zdarsky. I mean, I think we should give Zdarsky complete and total control over Vigilante Comics and just let him write everything now.
I'm not willing to go there quite yet, but he's definitely on fire right now.
Could you imagine what Zdarsky could do with Jason Todd? I mean, with Red Hood and the Outlaws.
He might make it good.
I know. And I enjoyed Red Hood and the Outlaws New 52. I'm not going to lie about it. It was definitely my guilty pleasure. But if you get somebody like Zdarsky, Tom Taylor, Tom King, some of those guys writing something like Red Hood and the Outlaws, you're going to have a good book. Just keep editorial out of it.
Well, and that's how you get a lot of these, right? Daredevil has not been one of the A-level books for Marvel, right? It's Spider-Man and Avengers, and they keep trying to make it X-Men again, and I'm with them for trying, but they're not trying the right way. Daredevil's been down here, right? So what happens is you get writers on that book who are good, and they leave them alone because they're focused on these. We got to get these guys. Everybody has to know these guys. And these books, they're left alone to do what they want and tell stories the way they want. And notice invariably the quality of these books is better than the quality of these books.
Mm-hmm. In 2 issues of Daredevil, just 2 issues have been better than the past 5 years worth of Spider-Man comics.
I stand by that.
2 issues.
Yeah, I absolutely stand by
that. If you are not going to Haven this week or next week and telling Josh, sign me up for Daredevil, can you get me 1 and 2? You're doing something wrong. I mean, you really need to be reading this book.
Daredevil is excellent.
Yeah.
Absolutely excellent. Could not agree more. Could not agree more. It is most excellent.
Look, and we've got somebody thirding this. So, I mean, 3 people are telling y'all to go read Daredevil. Speaking of Daredevil, I know that I'm like years behind everybody on my TV and streaming watching, but I have finally made it up to the episode of Daredevil where
you're in season 2 now, right?
I'm in season 2, and the Punisher has told him his story in the graveyard about the story and why he says penny dime and all that. It's so good. I really hope they do not Disneyfy this. I love Disney, but leave Daredevil alone. Stay down this path. Keep it dark. Keep it a little gritty. It's almost, some of it's got a little bit of that like noir feeling to it. Or
Yeah.
I'm a redneck. I can't talk. Yeah, last decade easily. But yeah, I mean, Charlie Cox in my mind will always be Daredevil, no matter what they do. I mean, I know Disney's going to keep him in everything, but even if it's just like Robert Downey Jr. will always be Iron Man. Charlie Cox will always be Matt Murdock. And he's doing a great job with both characters, of Matt Murdock and Daredevil.
Yeah, Human Target's an interesting character, and it's the kind of character Tom King excels at. Is where he can tell those kind of stories, those personal, up close stories, and give you those vignettes, and then rip your heart out. Tom King is really painfully good at that. To your point about Disney, I'm hoping that they don't. I wouldn't mind if they made him a smidge lighter. A smidge. But it needs to keep that edge to it, and I hope they do that. Lord knows the storyline that they're putting forth is a dark storyline where bad things happen, and you can't tell that story in a lighthearted, off the cuff kind of way.
The story they're going to tell involves Karen, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
My only gripe so far with Karen, as far as the TV show is concerned, is they did not have to have Karen kill Wesley. Wilson Fisk's right-hand man. That character of Wesley was absolutely perfect, and I loved it every time he was on the screen. They could have kept him.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was good that she had the backbone. She's displayed a lot of gumption. She's not just oh no, woe is me, someone come rescue me. She's got a lot of gumption, and I really like that about her.
Nick, I got something for you. It's right here behind this hand.
You're absolutely right about that, Daniel. The internal struggle is what makes him the character that he is.
Yep. Now, one thing I have thoroughly enjoyed is how they've kind of, I mean, it's kind of subtle digs at him being depressed and self-loathing, and part of that's because he's Catholic. I think that's kind of been a little funny little side thing that they've done.
I totally agree with this. Killing off Ben Urich was a mistake. Yep. That was short-sighted because Ben Urich, he is a staple in the Daredevil universe. And I did not care for the fact that they killed him the way they did, or killed him at all. They should have left him alive, and I think with some creativity they could have done that. No, that's unfortunate. I agree with you on that. And it's not just Daredevil. Ben Urich is just a staple in all the superhero books set in New York. He shows up a lot in Spider-Man in the comics. He's a great guy to have around. Yeah, Daredevil ain't Daredevil if he's not Catholic. Absolutely. Yeah. That's just part of who he is. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's for sure. But you said you're in season 2 now.
Yep, in season 2.
Which, how far have you gotten into it? How many episodes?
Literally, he just turned the Daredevil over to the police department in the graveyard, and it was the the police officer that they're friends with was actually had Daredevil in handcuffs. And he's like, no, you need to take the collar. You need to take the credit for arresting him. You know, y'all need this win for the police department. And they let him go. So him and Karen just kissed, and he walked into his apartment, was standing there, I guess, reminiscing about the kiss, drinking a beer, and heard a noise, and Elektra was sitting on the couch. And it literally ended with him saying her name.
Yep. So you've still got to get to the rest of what goes on with Punisher in that second season, right?
Yes. Now, is this the part where I should start watching the Punisher show?
No. I thought the Punisher show was okay, but it was like it suffered from the 6-issue story arc kind of thing too. It got dragged out. It was like 4 episodes longer than it should have been. That said, there is the episode where something happens to Punisher, and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. And you realize that he planned it. He knew it was going to happen, and he planned for it.
Did Punisher plan for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Holy cow.
Now, I've got to admit, I'm not a big John Bernthal fan. I really and truly, he did the character of Shane in the Walking Dead TV show perfectly because I hated that character in the comic book, and it forced me to hate the character on TV. He's a great actor. His role as the Punisher, he has definitely won me over.
Oh, for sure. He is the Punisher. He is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean,
I will say this: when he was first going to be he was cast as Punisher, and people knew it. He went into a comic shop in New York, and he said, "What do I need to read to know this character?" And the comic shop owner said, he went and got all this stuff, loaded him up, and said, "You need to read this. You read this. You understand this. You will know the character of the Punisher." And that's what he did. As a matter of fact, this was on, I think it was an interview. He was on The Tonight Show or something where he was talking about this, right? And the guy goes, the interviewer says, "Well, did he give you the comic books?" He's like, "Oh, no." He said, "I can afford to pay for them." I was like, he was right.
He did not lie.
But no, there's a scene where something bad happens to the Punisher, and when you realize that he planned for that, he knew it was coming, and then he just took it, you're like, oh my God, the guts this guy has. And then there's another scene that is the Punisher, but it's reminiscent of that early fight in Daredevil in the hallway. You know the one I'm talking about?
Where Daredevil's going to get the kid that was kidnapped?
Yeah. And it's just that fight up and down that hall with the doors and all that. There's a scene reminiscent of that with the Punisher. Whoa, that is something else. Like, it's these cases where he's like, I see this situation unfolding, and I know this is going to be bad. But I'll be darned if I'm not going to fight like this is my last moment on Earth, because these people are. I mean, like, the odds tell you that there's no way he should be able to do this. But he's so stubborn and just so to heck with it that he guts through it. It's incredible. It's incredible.
See,
yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, Daniel. Phenomenal. Holy God, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, where I'm at, he was just pretty much tied down by the Irish Mafia, and they took the drill and went through his foot with it, and he's still just a screaming, "Come on!" And I'm like, "No, I'd have done gave up. I'd have been done." The second they did that drill, I'd have given up.
Right. That's the scene I was talking about first. He planned for that.
Oh, yeah.
He knew they were going to do that. They were going to, and he planned for it. His entire plan was built around it. And having them do that to him, and you're like, are you out of your mind? He's clearly nuts. But yeah, this jail cell scene or hallway in a jail, that scene, when you get to that, you're just going to watch, rewind it and watch it a couple of times, because holy Lord, it is something.
Good. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's most excellent, and I dig it. But I tell you, Are you looking forward to the Black Panther 2 movie? I'm curious.
I don't know. The jury's still out on this. I do not like the changes that they've made. When you take Namor out of Atlantis, he is no longer Namor. It's just all there is to it. I don't. I was one of those ones that was silently sitting in the background, really hoping that they would do one of two things. One, M'Baku would become Black Panther. I think that he would
That
have
actor
done,
is awesome.
yeah, I think he would have done an amazing job. And then the other one, was there somehow, some way that they could, try to resurrect Killmonger and just bring him back and let him be Black Panther. I
Why
mean,
would they do that?
well, because I think when you do that, you completely
Other than you bring Michael B. Jordan back, which is
bring
always a good
Michael B.
idea.
Jordan back, but the way that character was written, I feel like that he would want to try to honor what T'Challa had done and try to honor and try to maintain that legacy, but it would also give you this element of how far is he willing to go? How far, will he or won't he? You'll always have that in the background, and I think they could have really played with that dynamic.
I'm completely with you on the Atlantis thing. When you say Atlantis, every person on the planet associates Atlantis with something, right? It's this uh, harkening back to something that is gone, that's in the worldwide consciousness. Everybody knows about it. They've heard of Atlantis. It's this mythology that's built into us. And when you say it, everybody on the planet has a picture of Atlantis in their head. When you say whatever this other is, Talukan or whatever, 0 people have a picture of that in their head.
Yep.
If they just pay lip service to Atlantis and say, oh, this is what we're called, people have called us Atlantis for all these years. If they just say that, I'll be okay with it. But if they don't acknowledge Atlantis at all, that's not Namor.
Yep.
Daniel doesn't like the look of it. I think they look pretty cool. I don't mind the look of it all. The nose ring is a bit much. The big thing through the nose, that's a bit much. I think it's a pretty cool aesthetic. And certainly the other characters like Atuma and all that, they look amazing. Um, and I think that's really cool. So I'm cool with the aesthetic. I got no issues there. But it needs to be Atlantis.
Yep.
The nice thing about Atlantis is everybody has a picture of it, but nobody knows where it is, right? So if you want to say it's way the heck over there, fine. If it's more towards, if when Pangea split apart, if it's more in the South America side of things, cool. I got no issue. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
Now, one thing that they're going to have to do, and they're going to have to do really quick, is they're going to have to give us a really good explanation why we've got Wakanda, which is on the continent of Africa, and we've got basically an ancient Aztec civilization are warring. We got to figure out how these two have hooked up and are getting ready to go to war, and it's got to be done fairly quick. We can't give a complicated backstory.
Well, what I understand the story to be, based on what I have read, is somebody is paying an expedition. That somebody I have also heard is a certain ruler of a European country who goes by the name of Doom, is bankrolling an operation of people off the coast of Wakanda trying to find vibranium. And that he has also hired these Atlanteans as kind of protectors, as the security guards for this. That, or they were trying to get to the vibranium that's in the ocean as well. I don't know. It's something, one of those two kind of things is what I've heard. Brother, that is one heck of a question. Iron Man slash Submariner #1 predated both Iron Man #1 and Submariner #1, at least Silver Age Submariner 1. Why in the world that book isn't more sought after, I don't know. It's a great cover too. Man, that's a great cover.
That'll be one movie that we go to the movie theater for. Bug absolutely loved Black Panther, the first movie. I thought it was great too.
I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not going to let me slide on this. In fact, when we were up at the shop last Saturday and we were looking at the sign-up sheet, and she saw the Wakanda miniseries was coming out, sign me up, Daddy. So I had to sign up for it, you know. So we'll be, and you know how she is. I mean, anything Scarlet Witch. If she thinks that Scarlet Witch might even be remotely mentioned in this movie, we'll be camping out for tickets. So she loves those two characters. I mean, she really enjoys them. So we'll definitely be there.
Hey, let me ask you this. Maybe folks in the chat, see what y'all think. Would people be interested in us getting a big old block of tickets or renting out a movie theater and going to see a movie like that as a big group? What do y'all think?
With me, it would really come down to when. Because, I mean, you know how it is. Like, we have, literally, she has dance class 3 nights a week. So, and her dance class are the worst 3 nights it could be. They're literally Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Yeah. So with me, it would literally be like if we did a Saturday night or a Sunday, you know, Sunday afternoon or Sunday night. Naturally, when the tickets are more expensive.
Well, or we could just go during the middle of the workday.
You know what? And I'm down for that. I have no issues whatsoever. We can sneak a couple of tacos in and make a lunch out of it.
Man, now I want tacos so bad. All right. So far, everybody seems to think that'd be fun. I'll check it out and see what it looks like. The best option would be either renting out a theater if that's financially feasible. Hey, Kyle, man, thanks for joining us, brother. You have a good one, sir. No, I don't think so at all. I don't think this is just throwing stuff out there to see if it sticks at all. I mean, you can tell just from the trailer for Black Panther, this movie is going to have heart. It's clear how much Chadwick Boseman meant to these people. That's just clear as can be, and I think it's absolutely this movie is made with heart, and I don't think it's going to be just throwing stuff at the wall. I think it's going to be really special, this movie, in a lot of ways. It may not be successful as a film. I don't know. I suspect it will be. They certainly proved with the first Black Panther movie that they know what they're doing. And they made a heck of a movie. And I suspect that this one is going to be equally as good. And I don't think they would have committed to it and done this if they hadn't felt like they had a strong story. So I think that's how that's going to be. What kind of fan service? I don't know. I know they've already ticked off a lot of fans with the whole Namor presentation that they've done. So we'll see. Yeah. Thank you, Kyle. Yes, remind people to hit that like button because that makes us feel better. And it also actually does, for the algorithm engine, it actually does drive people, the more people that hit the like button. So
did you just hear a cat?
You did just hear a cat. That is my cat, Puddin'. She has come to yell at me to tell me that her food dish is empty. She's not having it. Puddin'.
All right, I just want to make sure I wasn't hearing things.
No, that's Puddin'. She's just telling me. She just went to sniff my hand and got an electrical shock on her nose. So that did not make her my friend.
She is not.
Are shirts still available? No, that was a campaign that we did with Green Pea Press. So no, that opportunity is gone for the moment. We will do another campaign shortly, and folks can order more shirts that way. That's just a good way because having to keep those shirts in stock and all that stuff is a nightmare. because you have to keep so many different sizes and things. It's just a real challenge to do and quite expensive. So we go the print on demand campaign route, and that has worked really successfully for us. Empty, or is the bottom visible? I don't know what you're talking about there. Oh, you're talking about the food in the cat dish? That appears to be dry. That well is dry. It's empty. She's cleaned that out, so that's where we are there. Alan, you've gone all grainy and almost black and white. You all right over there?
Yeah, I'm noticing some technical difficulties. Is that any better?
Video's not, and your audio was breaking up, but you kind of came through better at the end.
That's kind of strange.
Yeah, you must have got a hold of some of that bad internet there.
I must have.
Watch out, Fortran's coming to get you. Wow, I just got all bigified. There you are. That's better.
Okay, I have no idea what just happened. Is that good?
Well, it's better. You still look like you.
Oh, I'm beautiful. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on over here. It literally just started.
Probably other people using up your bandwidth.
Probably.
That would be somebody just started streaming a TV show. But I think we're about at a good place to call it a night. We do have some guests that we are talking to about coming on. Inkers like Barbara Kahlberg, who was an inker in the comic business for a long time, during a time when not a lot of ladies were in the business doing that kind of work. So she's going to be really interesting to talk to. We're going to be bringing LaShawn Colvin back with her comic Beautiful Soldiers, which is right around the corner. Hey, Chris, yeah, we did talk about She-Hulk. That was the first thing we talked about out of the gate, pretty much. So if you catch it on the rewatch, suffice to say we're both enjoying it so far. That's right, my cat did that. My cat ruined your internet, Alan.
Yeah, terrified me, the power of the cat. We do have one guest that I really don't want to announce yet, but if everything works out, October 6th, y'all want to be here to see this guest because she is the coolest people will ever.
Let's just say, Christine May, you are going to want to be here on October 6th. Definitively, you will want to be here.
Yep.
Yeah, we've lost your audio now, Alan. And you're all locked up. There, your audio's back.
Okay, this is, this is just getting weirder and weirder.
Well, let's just call it a night, and we will see you guys next week. If you're watching this tomorrow while you should be working, more power to you. I need a job like that. Hope you guys are all having a great day. Hope you have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday. If you want to come by before Thursday and sign up for Daredevil, because Alan said you need to, that's a smart play, and you should do that.
And don't forget signing up for Spider-Man The Lost Hunt.
That's right. Spider-Man The Lost Hunt. It's going to be a great book. Talk to you guys later. Y'all have a great night.
See ya.